In other news, the High Court in Gqeberha, that's in the Eastern Cape, is expected to hear closing arguments in the case of a woman who was allegedly killed by her boyfriend. Vicki Terblanche's murder was apparently carried out by Reinhardt Leach in conspiracy with her estranged husband, Arnold Terblanche. The two men's trials are taking place separately. The state and defense will make their closing arguments in the case against Leach. Our reporter Lerato Fekisi has more.
We are in Gqeberha, where the case of murder accused Reinhardt Leach is going to start this morning at the Gqeberha High Court. This morning we will see the case of Reinhardt Leach literally come to a close with the closing arguments of the state and the defense. The last time Reinhardt Leach was in court was during his cross-examination, where a few things came out. He narrated a timeline of how things led to the death of Vicki Terblanche in October 2021, explaining that he met Vicki at a party, was introduced to her by a local friend who had invited him to the party. He described Vicki as a calm, loving young girl who had a lot said for her, but also then disclosed how Vicki told Reinhardt Leach that she was about to divorce her husband or going through divorce at that time, describing her then husband, Arnold Terblanche Murder accused number 2 in this case, that he was a narcissist, a possessed man, and also asking Reinhardt Leach to help her allegedly to kill Arnold Terblanche. He then went to state that later he then met Mr. Arnold Terblanche at a local club in Cotswold, where they had a conversation about how they would co-parent Ruben, who was the son of Arnold Terblanche, and Vicki Terblanche. And during the conversation, he told the court that he told Mr. Arnold Terblanche about Vicki's plan to kill him, to which Arnold replied he wasn't really surprised. He then also asked Mr. Leach if Vicki was under drugs, because he had been trying numerous times to try to prove that to gain full custody of his child. And Reinhardt Leach then definitely confirmed that Vicki was a heavy drug user at that time. He then told the court how Mr. Arnold Leach also told him that allegedly he wanted to kill Vicki, and asked Mr. Leach to assist him with the promise of giving him some financial compensation to do this. After consulting his friends who stayed with him at the time in Vicki's house, Mario Derrida and also Dylan Callis, who is the third accused in this case, currently serving his 18-year sentence for his involvement in this case, they then conspired a plan to assassinate Vicki. He explained how at that time he was fully much dependent on Vicki financially, and also for a place of shelter, staying in Vicki's house in Westview, and depending also on a stipend which was given to Vicki by Mr. Arnold Terblanche. He also spoke how he was not working at the time, that his business, which was an Oberlin business, had failed, so he was indeed in need of cash, and he saw this as a perfect opportunity to gain cash by assassinating Vicki, and also I saw it as a way to also get financial compensation, as Arnold Terblanche had allegedly promised him if he did agree to kill Vicki. After some time and consulting with his friends, they agreed. The initial plan was to shoot her. A gun was purchased, but in the end they decided not to shoot her, and rather conspired a plan to rather drug her with pessays, and then for her to choke from the pessays and ultimately die. He told the court that he still maintains that yes, he did have a part to play in her death, in that he was the one on that day that drugged her. He was the one that took her to his bedroom. He explained that they had sex, and then after that she passed out. And then during Dylan Callis's cross-examination, Dylan Callis explained how he heard Vicki pretty much choking from her vomit, and how he took her out of Mr. Leach's bedroom into a spare room to try to make her gain consciousness, because she was very much unconscious after taking 25 pessays after being drugged by Mr. Leach. And Dylan Callis alleges that he tried to wake her up, tried to tell her of the plan that was in place to kill her, but she was fully drugged. Mr. Leach then went to further explain that he woke up the next morning with Vicki lying next to Mr. Leach, obviously quite angry, asking why she is still alive, and obviously now aware that the plan to kill her and for her to drug from her vomit had not really transpired and been a success. He then alleges that Dylan Callis, the third accused in this case, then took a pillow and smothered Vicki, which ultimately led to her death. Dylan Callis, on the other hand, the third accused in this case, he still maintains that he did not smother Vicki, and if anything else, it was Mr. Leach, because of his anger that their plan did not go through, who took a pillow, put his elbows over the pillow and his knees, and smothered Vicki to death. Mr. Leach was adamant in court that yes, he had more to gain from killing Vicki, financially and also through a promise of a house, which he says he never got from Mr. Arnold Terblanche, nor did he get any financial compensation, but said that he still maintains that in terms of smothering her to death, it was Dylan Cullis and not him who did that to Vicki Terblanche. He then went to further tell the court how he reported her as missing the very next day, and how ultimately it was Dylan Cullis, the third accused in this case, who told the police exactly what happened, who he alleges killed Vicki, who he says is Reinhardt Leach, and how eventually her body was found in a shallow grave in green bushes, and how a pathologist who did work on her explained that ultimately she died from multi-drug intoxication. That's what ultimately led to her death. So in court this morning we will hear the closing arguments of the state and the defense, and then that will bring the testimony and the case of Reinhardt Leach to a close. And then in October we will see Arnold Terblanche Murder, accused number 2 in this case, take the stand for his trial. For now, let's go back to you in studio.
Lerato Fekisi there reporting from Gqeberha.